This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, miniatures, and paints, discount prices at miniaturemarket.com. Hey everybody, it's your old pal Rob. We're going to be taking a look at something that I'm really torn over. It's a book I got and I read, and you know, I guess the best way to do this is that eventually I'll do a playthrough of this, because usually on a Wednesday I try to come live unless we got a ton of farm stuff going on. But Ker Nethalas, Into the Midnight Throne, is a book that was sent to me. This and their very first Codex, which is really kind of neat. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to go through the book. I'm going to tell you some of the things that are really neat about this. And then some of the things that are kind of, you know, I scratch my head with. But I want to give it a fair shot. So we're going to take a look at it. We're going to talk about some things here. And then I'll come back on the other side and I'll give you some more thoughts. And then we'll go from there. I think that's fair enough. So let's go down to the table and check it out. So if you're going to want to check this out, number one, you can get this at Drive-Thru RPG. You know how much I love them and how great they are. Okay, and as you can see, there's really some neat art to open up this book with. Really kind of neat. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to need when you gotta make sure that you can download the character sheets, and you're definitely going to want to get your hands on they have some cheat sheets there because you really need them for this, and I'll show you why. Okay, so a very interesting system here. This is the actual hardcover book here, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, okay? And I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'm going to tell you some of the things that you're going to need that are really interesting about this, and that really kind of stand out. Now the first thing is creating a character is really original here, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can just see this book a little bit better there. And there we go. First of all, you know, you're going to go into, you know, explaining Into the Midnight Throne, what the game's all about, and some of the simple rules to it. You're going to want to build a character, and building a character is very deep. Creating your survivor. Now, one of the things that really kind of turned me off a little bit is when we do get to create a character, you are actually a criminal, whether you are guilty or not, okay? You are a character, and you are going to roll what you were accused of. Well, you were accused of highway robbery, witchcraft, poaching, smuggling. Where I have a problem, even murder doesn't bother me because, you know, you're accused of it. It's when we get down to, if you roll on a d20, 19 or 20, okay? Child theft. You know where I'm going here? No. Do you want to have a character that was accused of child theft and play a whole game with a character that was accused of child theft? Or how about sodomy? Okay, committing any unnatural sexual act, including those among members of the same sex, but not limited to it. My character was accused of sodomy, so we're going to make him the hero of this. I can only suggest that when you roll these two, roll again. Okay, because if you, I was accused of fraud. I was framed. I was accused of counterfeiting. You know, yeah, I was accused of murder, but I never did it. You know, when you get into things like this, it's a bit of a line for me. Okay, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But let's keep going and keep talking about what this is really about. Okay, you're going to have different abilities and stuff like that. But there is such a deepness to creating a character, because you could be so many different things. You could be an abysmal reaver, an alchemist, or a brawler, or all these different things are going to give you certain abilities. And they're like, you keep going for like 60 pages. You could be a warrior that casts, you know, ice spells and raises the undead. You know, it's very, very neat how it works. Now, the rules, let's talk a little bit about this, because this is something that's very, very familiar, okay? And Into the Midnight Throne here, it is based on a D100. You are going to use other things, okay, such as a, let me just back out a hair here, folks, sorry about that. You're going to use a D4, D6, a D12, of course, 2 D10s and such, for certain checks and things like that. But a lot of this is very familiar in the fact that most of your rolls are going to be based on D100. Combat is very complicated. It's kind of confusing and complicated, and I'm still trying to work it out a little bit. There are different things that you are going to run into, whether it is free actions, reactions, how you determine what a turn is and a round is. A turn is of one person, and a round is of everybody in the combat. There are some really neat things about this too, such as advantages and disadvantages. If you are rolling combat, and I'm going to read this to you because I really think this is really cool. Certain abilities or circumstances will give you advantages and disadvantages. And this is very unique in how this works, okay? Because, for instance, and I'm going to read this part, Zara has just received an advantage on her next attack as a result of a positive defensive move. Your defensive moves play a big part into this. She rolls a D100 and obtains a 62. Her skill in a bladed weapon is just 50. So this would normally mean it is a failure, because you have to roll under the 50. And you'll add certain abilities and stuff like that. And that higher that number in combat, you've got to roll under it to successfully hit. Now here's the neat part. Fortunately, the advantage allows her to flip the results, turning it into a 26 instead of a 62. I think that's kind of neat, because if you have the advantage, you can flip that, and then boom, you've passed, and you can finish and hit a particular thing. Another thing that plays a big role into this is sanity. You're facing all these different types of creatures and stuff like that. You're going to need your sanity for sure, and you can roll on a madness chart and it'll drive you nuts. Weapon speed is a big thing in here. Weapon speed is going to be added to your combat skills, and it's going to help you in your checks. You're going to be able to hit certain locations on an enemy, a humanoid, an acronoid, an insect. You'll roll on this chart to determine where you hit them. You cut off their head, who knows? Dealing damage, very simple. You're going to roll a d10, and depending on, that's how much you'll do. You'll be able to cast spells and things like that. There are fumbles in here too. Things can go wrong. Light source is very, very important in this. Okay, you're going to need a hand free to either carry a torch, a lamp, or a belt lamp in some way. And a lamp, and this is a neat thing. If you're going to have to carry a torch for a light source, you have a limited number of rooms that each torch will last for. And a regular torch or a lamp will remain lit for 20 rooms. Okay, so you have a light source tracker, which will be on your thing. As you can see, this looks very familiar. So when you're rolling up rooms, we've seen this before, okay? You're going to be fighting in each room. You're going to have layer checks. There is also a thing called tension dice check, which is really kind of interesting, and I'll explain that a little bit. But you're going to roll up one of these overseers, okay? You're going to roll up an overseer, and that's the person that you're going to have to go through on these random dungeons that you're going to create and go down and face things, okay? Each rooms or corridors, you're going to be rolling a D100 to see what what's in them and so forth and so on. And then you'll roll what is called a you have to roll to see if there is a combat encounter. If there is a room, if you roll 10 plus on a D20, well, then you have an encounter, and you'll roll on the encounter chart. If you're in a corridor, you have to roll 15 plus to see if you could possibly run into these things. There is a tension die check, and we're going to flip over there. I believe it's 106. And I've been trying to really get this stuff down. There is a growing darkness check. Growing darkness. Now, we've heard growing darkness from Shadows of Brimstone, of course. But the tension die. The tension die is going to build tension, and you're going to have to roll on this chart. But the neat thing about it is, especially with certain things like the tension die, you're going to start with a D8. And if you roll a 1 or 2 on the D8, you're going to go down to a D6. And if you roll a 1 or 2, on the next time you do your check, if you roll a 1 or 2, well, then you're going to go down to a D4. If you go down to the D4 and you roll a 1 or 2, it's going to trigger the growing darkness table. So it's kind of a neat progression downwards with your, as you can see here, from a D8 to a D6 to a D4. And they do a couple things through here that are going to do that, such as the lair, I believe it's the lair, the overseer, I believe, that you're going to do the same thing to see which room he's in. And the same thing with finding an exit. You're going to work your way down until you can find those exits. You're going to have potions. You're going to have certain encounters with certain creatures, and all the stats for the creatures are here. The neat thing in back here is they're going to show you how certain equipment goes, loot, and things like that. So you're going to have, what you can sell for, the cost for it, what protection or what offense that it does, and speed it has. Other gear and things like that. And then in the very back here, there is a random adventure here that you are going to go through, and it's going to show you all the different rooms, so you don't have to create those rooms, which is kind of neat. It's your first encounter, and then you're going to have the certain things that you're going to face there, what you're going to run into in each room, and how you deal with that. And then when you get to the overseer himself, of course, on your way there. And then, of course, the exit. You can find the exit and all the different things that you can with this. That in a nutshell is what it is. We'll talk more about that up top. What I really like also is this first issue of their Codex. They have this little Codex with a bunch of different missions, and it reminds me of the old Blood Bowl magazines and the Mordheim magazines and the Warhammer Quest magazines, Mighty Blow and stuff like that, where this comes out and it has a bunch of different adventures in it, some rules upgrades. Here you can go through the Cult of the Crow, which is very neat. Some optional rules. So it has that old school feel that I really, really like. This is familiar yet very different, and yet I'm torn on it a little bit. So I'm going to talk more about this up top. So let's go up top, and I'm going to talk more about it up top. Let's just leave it at that. Let's go up there. And I gave you a nice little look through. You can find this on Drive-Thru RPG, or you can go to their site, put in Ker Nethalas, and their site, which is, I believe it is Black Oath Entertainment. They have a nice, beautiful website which will help you with all the things that you need to really get going with this. So let's go up top and talk a little bit more about this. Yeah, so I've been messing with this for a little bit, and it feels like a certain game in some parts, and then when you get to combat, it almost seems like it's a little bit confusing and a little bit overcomplicated. If they dumbed it down a little bit, I think not really dumb it down. There are some like really unique things in this that I really find fascinating, such as, you know, the advantages and disadvantages, the lore, how rooms are created, the tension building, how it descends in dice, and it has potential. But you know, when you start talking about, you know, the sodomy and the I don't think that was really needed in there. Couldn't we say car theft or horse theft or something like that, or replaced it with that? It's kind of a sensitive subject for a lot of people, and I think some people will have a problem if they rolled and they took that character and they went, hey, you know, and you're playing this role-playing game, and oh yeah, I got arrested for sodomy or, you know, child theft. Doesn't really want you to get, doesn't give you a good excuse to back this type of character or go, hey, I was innocent. I'm just saying. You know, that's the only thing in here that I think went a little sideways. The other thing is it has a lot of feel to something, and I kind of like, you know, I kind of go, well, you know, but there are things that how you progress and do certain things that make it different. You know, they took a system and put their own twist on it. I think the best way to, for me, and this is just being honest, because I think I need more time with this, and I think the best way to get everybody's kind of group opinion before we have a final thought on this is to do like a little live thing on Wednesdays like I do. So I'm going to create another character, and you know, we're going to take him for a spin and see how you guys feel about this, okay, as the story unfolds, how, you know, and how things go, and get everybody's input, and see how it plays in a group setting where we can really, instead of me fumbling around and doing it a certain way, you know, the neat thing about it, when you roll up those rooms and those corridors, it's not as precise as the other game where you have, okay, this is 5 squares, I've got to put it in there. You can just make those rooms on a plain piece of paper and say, okay, I'm in here. And, you know, however you want to draw it, how big or small, it doesn't matter, because it's what's inside those rooms. It's not how the room is or which way, you know, how big it is or how small it is and how it affects different things. No, it is a shaped room. It has a characteristic, and that's how it goes. So very, very interesting. I'm not going to pass the judgment on it because I want to be fair and give it more time, and give it a little bit more love, and I want to do it with you guys, and I swear I will. I'm thinking this coming Wednesday I will have time, now that we got the pool up, thank God, and the cows spurred away, and the bull, and all the other fun stuff. But we're going to really give this a really good look through, with your eyes on it as well. And I think that's the best way to do it, and so you get a true feel of it instead of taking my word for it. So we'll check this out. Into the Midnight Throne, Ker Nethalas. Hopefully I said it right. We'll check it out. We'll see what you think. Until next time, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon, everybody.